In June 2024, more than 2 years after the outbreak of the Russian-Ukrainian war, French journalist Sylvie Kaufmann traveled to Kyiv. There, she met Ukraine's foreign minister at the time, Dmytro Kuleba. Kaufmann noticed immediately that Kuleba appeared deeply somber. His country had lost tens of thousands of soldiers, and the war showed no clear path toward an end. In that context, the French journalist asked a simple but heavy question. How do you see Europe's position toward Ukraine in this war? Kuleba's response exposed a deep gap between Eastern and Western Europe. This is Europe's problem. You will never truly understand what war means until it reaches you, he went on to say. Yes, general mobilization in Ukraine is tearing society apart. But just wait until French mothers are forced to send their sons to defend a NATO country bordering Russia. So far, that prediction has not come true. French mothers are not sending their sons to war. But the real question is, how long will that remain the case? In November, France's chief of the armed forces, General Fabien Mandin, stood before a conference of French mayors wearing his military uniform. His message was blunt. Russia is preparing for a confrontation with our countries by 2030. He warned that if France is unwilling to accept the possibility of losing its sons in a real war, then France will place itself in existential danger. In short, war in Europe is no longer unthinkable. It may be closer than many expect. But wars are not fought with speeches or intentions. Wars require soldiers, large numbers of soldiers. And this is where the real problem begins. Russia enjoys a massive numerical advantage. Its army is roughly 6 to 7 times larger than the largest army in the European Union. That numerical advantage allows Russia to absorb and replace heavy human losses. Western Europe, and France in particular, does not have that luxury. The reason is simple: demographics. On January 13, 2026, France's National Institute of Statistics and Economic Studies released historic data. For the first time since the end of World War II, the number of births in France fell below the number of deaths. In 2025, deaths: 651,000 births. 645,000, a natural population decline of 6,000 people. The number itself is not the real danger, the trend is. Births in France have been declining continuously since 2010. Fertility rate has fallen to 1.5 children per woman, well below the replacement level of 2.1. The result is inevitable: an aging society and a shrinking youth base. In 1967, France's population pyramid looked exactly like a pyramid, a wide base of young people and a narrow top of elderly citizens. By 2025, the shape had inverted. By 2030, people aged 65 and older are expected to make up 27.5% of the population. Economically, this creates severe pressure on the pension system, public debt exceeding 3.3 trillion euros. Nearly a quarter of the national budget spent on pensions. But the most dangerous consequence is not economic. It is security-related. In January 2026, France announced a new 10-month voluntary military service program for young people aged 18 to 25. The goal is to strengthen domestic defense capabilities. But the reality is harsh. France's human reservoir is shallow. Immigration cannot easily solve this problem because military service relies heavily on citizenship. European armies overwhelmingly depend on their own nationals. The war in Ukraine revived an old lesson many had forgotten. Technology does not replace manpower. The Battle of Bakhmut alone claimed nearly 20,000 lives. Russia was able to endure such losses because of its vast population base. According to NATO estimates, Russia's total losses in the war exceed 1.1 million killed and wounded, and yet it continues to fight. In February 2024, Vladimir Putin called on Russian families to have at least 2 children. In January 2026, Emmanuel Macron responded by calling for a demographic rearmament of France. The difference is timing. Russia prepared early. Europe is reacting late. On January 15, 2026, Macron addressed French troops saying, "If we want to remain free, we must be feared. And to be feared, we must be strong." France plans to increase its defense budget by 66 billion euros between 2026 and 2030, but no matter how advanced the weapons, numbers remain the decisive weakness, especially if US forces withdraw from Europe. And this brings us to the final question. On January 17, 2026, US President Donald Trump attacked 8 European NATO allies and imposed new tariffs after they refused to allow the United States to take control of Greenland. So the question is no longer hypothetical. Will Trump be able to impose his will on Europe? Or will Europe finally develop not only technological power, but human power as well? That is the question.